Can we have the lights up, please? Because we are not using the PowerPoint. The lights. We can turn it up more so that we can see people. Smita, can you just shut the door, please? Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you to the third annual Vice Chancellor's Retreat. My name is Pramat Sinha. Some of you are old friends and are back here for a loyal third time. We must be doing something right. Some of you are here for the first time and it's great to have you back. Have you joined our endeavor? We've been doing these retreats for, like I said, this is the third year, and we've tried to build a small community of leaders in education who are like-minded, who want to make a difference through their institutions in the larger education scenario in the country. As you know, we have a magazine that you should be getting in your offices. We have a newsletter that goes out every day. We have a website that is reasonably popular. I have to say that often people would tell me that people of your level will not read their emails and that newsletters don't work with senior people in organizations and much less with vice chancellors. The fact is that my company 9.9 Media has newsletters in about a dozen different areas, and today in the internet you can measure everything. So when you send a newsletter, you know how many people clicked on it, how many people opened it, how many people read which stories, and so on. And there are many things that are measured for newsletter performance: open rates, click rates, and so on. And it's the highest for our EDU newsletter. So obviously you all are more computer savvy and technologically literate than you are made out to be. There's a misperception somehow that you all are not very technologically savvy. In any case, it's great to have you back, and the theme of this conference is really around benchmarking. Every year we pick a theme. The last few years we've talked about overall excellence. We've talked about the importance of becoming globally competitive and so on. This year we decided to narrow the theme down to the issue of quality and benchmarking for quality. And what is the role of accreditation, of rankings in benchmarking. And with that theme in mind, we've designed a bunch of different sessions throughout the conference. One of the things that you will notice is that we do not have too many panel discussions. One of the feedback we got from participants was that they are tired of hearing the same speeches again and again, and they'd like to see something different. Yet when we invited people, you all do want to be saying something. So we felt that the best way to do that was to organize it more in a roundtable fashion, with certain opening remarks being made by a few people. And so you will see less from people sort of speaking from the stage, as it were, and more from within the audience. And I've taken the role of playing host and moderating for the next 2 days. So I hope you will bear with that format and let us see how it works. We have some new formats like the cafe and the unconference that we have planned over the next few days. And the one other thing that we got a lot of feedback on was the need to get some speakers who were not people that we normally got to listen to. And so again, we have a bunch of different speakers who come from very different backgrounds, including Professor Sumantra Bose, who is a very renowned political scientist, historian from the London School of Economics, who's just releasing a book this year on the challenges for India, who's going to be our speaker tomorrow evening. So with that little introduction to the conference, I'd like to turn to our opening keynote session. And we are delighted that Professor Ved Prakash is here. I think this is his first conference because after all he became chairman during this last year. As you know, he's held several positions of national and international organizations dealing with education in general and higher education in particular. I have a long introduction to him here which I will not read out, and I will, with his permission, tell a short story which I remember him by, and I think it is quintessential of, I think, what he is trying to do in higher education in India. I first met Professor Ved Prakash at a smallish seminar organized by the Observer Research Foundation. We had never met before that, and as we were sitting in this meeting, the discussion turned to ISB and this new university I'm involved in building called Ashoka University, and the issues of getting approvals and so on. And I think somewhere in that discussion it came out that it was so difficult to get things done at UGC that you had to go to different people, and sometimes they were helpful, sometimes they were not. And suddenly Professor Ved Prakash turned to me, and this was the first time he was meeting me, and he said, listen, the head of an institution should only talk to the head of another institution. So if you have any problems, you should avoid the first floor and the second floor and the third floor, and you should just come straight to my office. And before he left, he actually gave me his cell phone number, and he said, anytime you need, please come and see me directly before you go and see anybody else. I thought that was amazing. Of all the stories one hears about how difficult it is to deal with government in general and how difficult it is to deal with UGC and so on, the fact was that I just found that very, very refreshing and very positive. And I actually, he's heard me tell this story now many times, and I'm sure he's bored about it. But the reason I tell this story is because too often we are always telling the bad stories that of course we are frustrated with, and we all know that, but sometimes we don't acknowledge enough the helpfulness that people have shown in whatever we do. So with that small introduction, I'd like to ask Professor Ved Prakash to please address us, and then we will have some Q&As with the audience. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Very good afternoon to all of you. Distinguished Vice Chancellors, fellow colleagues, invited guests, media persons, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a matter of great honor and a very special privilege to be with you this afternoon. But it's a difficult job to talk to learned people after sumptuous lunch, and that too if the audience happens to be the Vice Chancellors. Vice Chancellors are not in the habit of listening to the speakers after 2 o'clock, but Pramod has made me to do that, and I'll try to be short because many a time we teachers have the tendency that once we have the mic, we do not want to yield, and we start liking our own voices, and we go on and on and on and on. I'll try to be brief, and then I will have, of course, questions from you. I'm not going to bore you with the statistics. You all know that we are in an expansion mode, and that during our 156 years history of modern Indian higher education, we have traversed a long distance. Today we have 700 degree awarding institutions and close to 35,000 colleges offering both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. And people are concerned, people like us who are in the public system, we are concerned about 3 E's. One is the expansion, the another one is equity, and third is excellence. But some of our fellow colleagues, like Pramath, they are more concerned about excellence, about quality, and which I really appreciate. You know that I can't refrain from sharing one thing with you, that today in the age cohort of 18 to 22 years, we have the youth population of the order of 119.54 million. And of these 119.4 million students, close to 24.5 million students are enrolled in higher education, both in formal system and in ODL system. This number is going to, the 119.4 million students are, that number is going to be reduced in 5 years from hence to 118.3 or 2 million, because the youth population had started declining, and the other number, that is 24.5 or 24.6 million students, that number is going to be close to 30.6 million. And therefore, by the end of, these are some of the projections which I have made, by the end of the current 5-year plan on 31st of March 2017, we will be hitting 30% gross enrollment ratio in higher education. I'll stop at that, and I will share with you that if you look at that kind of an achievement, perhaps to some of us, access will not be that big a problem. It will continue to be a problem because of enormous amount of regional variations, enormous amount of state variations, enormous amount of district variations. We are all aware of that. We still have in pockets wherein the institutional density is much lower than the national average. But I'm not going to go into that. But if someone puts a question to us that how far we have failed in the last 156 years, the answer could be both. Someone can say that we have not done well. Someone would say that we have done well. But my answer would be that yes, we have done well, and on certain parameters we have not done so very well. And it happens in the life of all the nations which are the evolving economy. Now, you all know that the tomorrow's model of higher education is decidedly going to be different. But what would it be? It's extremely difficult for any one of us to figure out, because the most outstanding institutions of the world are coming up with an alternate model of higher education. And in that alternate model of higher education, you would be requiring institutions more for certification. Like we had started certifying the value of education in 1857, when we set up 3 universities in the port cities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. At that time, the universities were not the places for imparting education. They were the institutions for certifying the quality of education which was imparted elsewhere. And then subsequently we have changed. Now, there are opportunities before us. What are the opportunities? One of the opportunities is massification of higher education. This is an opportunity, and this opportunity is realized by a large number of people who had nothing to do with education, but they saw a huge opportunity and they have entered into the arena of education. Some of them are doing exceedingly well, some of them are not doing well. The another opportunity before us is how are we going to defragment higher education. In today's time, when the new knowledge lies at the intersections of different disciplines, the challenge before us is how to dissolve the boundaries amongst the disciplines. The unprecedented expansion of students' population is yet another opportunity. And it is not only a question of creating some additional classrooms for the surging student population in our institution. The challenge before us is to direct those children to the right kinds of streams. That is a big challenge. Because large number of children are going to come from the marginalized sections of the society, and these children have the right to go to different sectors of higher education. It's not that they are not fit for so-called progressive areas of studies. So the enormous challenge before us is how are we going to direct these children to the right kinds of streams and to put them in a position where from they can make decent living. Now, another challenge before us, another opportunity before us is how are we going to, when you are embracing the surging student population from the marginalized sections of the society, then how are you going to meeting out the post-admission needs of these children? Now what does it require? I mean, if these are the challenges before us, then what does it require? It certainly requires visionary policy initiatives, and which could be inclusive and qualitative expansion of higher education, which is the title that we have given to the 12th plan document of ours. Then strengthening research and innovation. Then according autonomy to the institutions to decide their own priorities. Prevention of malpractices. Quick redressal of disputes which would keep coming. Skill development. Proper accreditation and judicious convergence between the conventional mode of delivery and the ODL mode of delivery. Now, the precautions that we will have to take is, and which we keep underlining, is that single-minded pursuit of expansion can turn into chasing mindless statistics. Similarly, exclusive focus on equity would also compromise quality, and pursuit of excellence could be confined to a few islands of excellence. So we have to be mindful of these limitations. We must learn to collaborate locally, regionally, nationally and internationally. Now I will switch over to the role of the private sector in higher education. The state system, I mean high quality higher education in this country has come through private initiatives in the past as well. And you can name Jamshedji Tata, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, Sir Syed brothers, Thakur Rabindranath Tagore and many more who have made significant contribution in providing quality education, quality higher education. But that kind of philanthropy has dried up, and private participation is the need of the hour. Now, the share of private higher education has increased to the level of 42% in terms of universities and 62% in terms of colleges, if you look at the entire size of the higher education. But private system has to impose some kind of discipline on itself, and it should keep away from commercialization. Unfortunately, that is not happening, because profiteering in education is not permissible legally. We should not give business orientation to higher education. People are constantly getting the impression that the privatization has given business orientation to higher education. We need to select leaders of academic standing and integrity as the leaders of the private educational institutions, which is not quite visible in the private sector. And we should not look at regulations and government and public institutions and public regulators as adversaries. We are companions, because the goal remains the same. And as policymakers, we in the University Grants Commission and the government do recognize the key role of the private sector, because without the support of the private sector, we would not be able to realize the goal of 3 E's which I have talked about. Now, many of the great institutions in the world are private institutions, and there is no reason as to why our private institutions cannot attain that kind of level. Now, some of our private institutions are setting quality benchmark. Private institutions, the key word is together. Together we can achieve it much faster. So the impression that the regulators are not supporting privatization, I wanted to dispel that notion. We are to promote privatization, and as a result of which you will be happy, some of you may be knowing it, but we have done in the University Grants Commission. We had a flagship program of universities with potential for excellence, colleges with potential for excellence, and center with potential for excellence. These 3 schemes of the University Grants Commission are very important schemes wherein we are pumping substantial resources. Now, these schemes were available only for the publicly funded institutions. But in the recent past, what we have done is that we have opened up these schemes to the private sectors. Private institutions can also be given the title of universities with potential for excellence, colleges with potential for excellence, and centers with potential for excellence, provided they fulfill all those criteria which we had laid down earlier for the public institutions. And you may be knowing it that we had already opened up all the schemes of the University Grants Commissions to the private institutions, which are teacher-centric and which are student-centric. The teachers teaching in private institutions can access resources through the major research projects, through the minor research projects, and can bring about qualitative improvement and can create good ambience on the campuses of the private institutions. Now, insofar as the another thing which we have done is now we have made the assessment and accreditation mandatory. I would like to spend a little time on this. This is extremely important because we are increasingly becoming quality conscious, and that is a very good sign. Though we keep lamenting all the time that the standards are falling. The standards are falling because we are in an expansion mode. We should not be pessimistic, we should be optimistic. Some of our institutions are doing very well. We need more research institutions, but we should not forget that research institutions are complex institutions. Every institution cannot achieve global standards in terms of research and innovation. We have to be a little more pragmatic. I would be a very happy man if in 5 years from hence we have 40 or 30 good research intensive universities in our country. I would be extremely a happy man if in 8 years from hence some of our institutions start figuring in global ranking, in the first 100 and in the first 150 and first 200. Now, if in higher education we need, you can be very, very ideal, and you can say, no, every center of learning must be a center of excellence, wherein every center of learning must qualify to be a knowledge system and not a learning system wherein the knowledge created elsewhere is merely transmitted and certified. It sounds very well, but in an educational situation, it cannot happen. And therefore, let us be pragmatic. Let us improve the quality of both. And what I have requested to my fellow colleagues in the university system, that you identify 3 to 4 areas of studies wherein you have the strength and focus on them and try to achieve global standards in those domains of knowledge. And we would provide support to promote research in those areas. Now, research, one of the limitations of a research university can't have a national boundary or cannot afford to have a state boundary. It has to be an international institution. Research university, I'm sorry to say that to you, it cannot be a democratic institution. It has to be meritocratic. And it has to be meritocratic in terms of students' recruitment, in terms of teachers' recruitment, in terms of choosing grand challenges which are of global concerns. And in a research university, the professor, the teachers, they have to be extremely competitive. They have to be extremely competitive. And research university, leaving some countries, if you see the international scenario, barring countries like Japan and some Japan and very few universities in the United States of America, overwhelmingly the research universities are public institutions. They are public institutions. Now, they have to have different hiring and admission policies, the promotion standards, and the degree requirements, etc. Now, similarly, there are issues pertaining to the governance. The head of a research university need not be a Nobel laureate. He has to be an excellent manager who can mobilize resources. A week ago, I was visiting the University of Massachusetts, and I ran into a professor there. I met 2 of them actually. One of them is the highest paid professors. Is getting $720,000 a year. It does not teach a single class, but he brings in $25 million grants to the University of Massachusetts each year. I ran into Professor Murthy, who is from Tamil Nadu, who is the second highest paid professor of chemistry in that university. He is getting $250,000 a year. He's taking classes. Now, I mean, in a research university, you have to have both. We have research universities. For instance, some of our top class university institutions of higher learning, like Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Jawaharlal Nehru University, University of Hyderabad, they have very recently started undergraduate programs in very small number of areas. Hyderabad still doesn't have. JNU has only languages. Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore has started an integrated program at the undergraduate level very, very recently. They think that if they offer the undergraduate programs, the quality of the university will go down, but that is not correct. I can give examples after examples. I mean, the most research intensive universities have both the undergraduate programs, the graduate programs, and the research programs. And the professors, those who do research, I mean, they teach even at the undergraduate level. So there are issues relating to governance, relating to financing. Funding is extremely central to a research university. Our universities are not assured by us of funding of a certain order, because Pawan Agarwal doesn't give us enough money. So now there are issues relating to the autonomy and challenges and globalization and curriculum, but I am sure that the modern societies cannot do without research universities, and the challenge for the private sector is that how many of them would be able to graduate themselves from the learning system to the knowledge system in 5 years from hence or 10 years from hence. Now, research universities will remain a central element of every higher education system and a requirement of most economies of the world. Now, I come over to the issues pertaining to accreditation. We have made, Ranganath has helped us, I am very grateful to him, and we have made now assessment and accreditation mandatory. All India Council for Technical Education is also coming up with the regulation to making it mandatory for the institutions offering programs in engineering and allied disciplines. Now, the global ranking, we are very concerned actually, and the highest offices of the land are expressing their concerns time and again as to why some of our institutions are not figuring in the top 100 and top 200 or top 300 or 500. And if they are figuring only in certain domains of knowledge. Now, global ranking has its own limitations. I was talking to Sinha Saab a little while ago. I mean, limitations like that of any other evaluation system. It provides incomplete perspective, and the parameters which are employed for the purposes of ranking the institutions globally, some of those parameters are not applicable on our institutions because we have not yet internationalized our classrooms. We have not been able to internationalize our faculty. We have not been able to internationalize our curricula to a large extent, and we do not have very many Nobel laureates working on the campuses of our universities. So we lose out heavily on those parameters, as a result of which we are not figuring there. But then there is downside of ranking. We should not. I'm not saying that we should not be worried about it. I think we should be worried, and it may not be fair on our part if we turn a blind eye from it. We must strive for that. Now, most rankings are sponsored by the magazines, and these magazines make more money by ranking rather than selling their magazines. This is also one of the limitations. Some rankings are for profit organizations. Certain kinds of research like that of exact sciences receive greater attention as compared to that of the research carried out in social sciences and humanities and in languages. So the ranking of the institutions go, highly in favor of exact sciences. Some of the most outstanding institutions of higher learning in humanities and social sciences do not figure in the first 100 and in the first 200, and therefore, we should understand the limitations of that. Now, we need not be, the point that I am trying to make is that we need not be obsessed by the global ranking, but there are lessons which we need to learn from these global rankings. And we can evolve, as Muhammad was talking to me, we can evolve our own indigenous method of assessment and ranking. When we had started NAC in 1994, We were not of the opinion that we would be using the NAC rating for making inter-institutional comparison. The idea was that we will show the needle to the individual institutions, where do they stand, what are their strengths and what are their shortcomings, so that they can consolidate on their strengths and overcome their inadequacies. But now, I mean, we are increasingly being asked that you should move from institutional accreditation to the program accreditation, and you should also go in for assessment and accreditation. You should also make inter-institutional comparisons. Many a time we face questions from the Parliament that of the total number of institutions which are accredited by NAC, how many of them fall in category A, how many of them fall in category B, and how many of them fall in category C. We have a very small number of institutions which we have accredited so far. Now, some of the points which I would like to reflect relating to this quality standards in higher education. I think research is fine, innovation is fine, but teaching is also equally important. If we are not able to provide competencies and skills which are essentially required by the individuals to respond to the requirements of the world of work, then I think we are not doing our job. And therefore, teaching should also remain central insofar as quality parameters are concerned. Now, we are expecting from all institutions of higher learning that within the stipulated time frame, they should prepare themselves for assessment and accreditation. They should file their proposals with the NAC or with the NBA and with the accreditation board. We have 3 national level agencies in our country as of now, and we are also contemplating to setting up more state level institutions for assessment and accreditation, because the number of institutions is so large that it may not be possible for us to do the job from backlog. We have already initiated the process of setting up the regional offices. We are also persuading the provincial governments to setting up their own agencies, but the state governments are not coming on board. Now we are also contemplating to entrust this task to the private agencies, provided they fulfill the conditions which we have laid down. So, as you are concerned about quality, the government and the regulators are also equally concerned, and we need more number of institutions falling in category A, and we are evolving our system. We cannot claim that the system that we have evolved in NAC, in NBA and in ADE is a foolproof system, because assessment always has its own limitations. Assessment of any kind has its own limitations, but we will continue to strive to overcome the inadequacies that they are in the system. We would seek your cooperation, and together I think we would evolve parameters which would be widely acceptable, and we would be able, to put a seal of quality on our institutions. That is what is required in today's time, and I hope because without that we may not be able to do greater good to those children who would be the first generation learners, and that number is going to be very large. And the last thing that I would say, that this surging student population is going to increase the diversity on our campuses, and those institutions which are going to attach utmost significance to equity and excellence, only those institutions are going to survive. The rest are going to queue up before Paliwal for their closure, and it would be his sweet will. He would allow some of them to convert into the real estate, and to others not. So with these, very straight thoughts, I conclude my observations. And but before I conclude, I would like to thank Pramod for giving me this opportunity to be with you this afternoon. And if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
I think you talked about the participation of private universities in centers of excellence. But which is very welcome. I think it's a great idea. But would you be willing to go the next step, where these universities that make it into that list would also participate in the funding that comes with it? And the reason I say that is private universities are largely funded by one source, which is the tuition revenue that comes from the students. And it is not right for us to basically use that tuition revenue for buying expensive research equipment that the people who are paying the money would not be able to use to the same extent. And by the way, I'm Ashok Saxena. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Belgorod University.
The man sitting behind you gives me more money. I would love to do that. We were supporting private institutions prior to, I think, 1995 or 1998. But then came a time when we had set up more number of public institutions, the resources were limited, and as a result of which the Commission took the decision that we may not be in position to provide planned funding to the private institutions. But a window is open, already open. For instance, teachers can access resources through research projects, and it will add, to some extent it will add to your teaching, and it will also create a healthy academic competition. Now it depends upon you how far you are able to motivate your teachers. If you put a condition in your university that each teacher has to have a major research project from the University Grants Commission, and if you have a team of 100 teachers, and if all the 100 teachers access 100 major research projects worth of 20 lakhs, you are going to get funding from the public resources. Similarly, the students are already getting, whether they are studying in private institutions or public institutions, because they are the assets of the nation, the teachers and also the students, as a result of which is why we have opened up that window. But the planned funding is not possible as of now because of the limited resources and because we have set up 153 public institutions in the last 8 years. This kind of expansion has never ever happened in the history of Indian higher education.
So I'm Brigadier Garewal. You have mentioned both the three E's, but there is another A which I think is required to be built into our education system, and that is accountability. Whether it is a public university or a private university, our system is suffering because there is no accountability. What is the UGC's approach to building that accountability into our system?
This is the collective responsibility of the regulators and the individual institutions insofar as accountability is concerned. We have performance-based academic schools now, PBAS, and that is the minimum thing. Maximum would be anything. The role of the regulators is to lay down the minimum benchmark with a view to ensuring the quality of the teachers, and wherein you have, you are disposed on different parameters, the participation of the teachers in extracurricular activities in the life of an institution, his research, her contributions in the research, her teaching workload, and all that. Insofar as regularity and punctuality, if you think that the regulators are going to ensure the regularity and punctuality of the teachers, that is not possible. That is to be ensured by the head of the institution. And you can go on adding into E. I talked only about expansion, equity and excellence. I could have also talked about ethics. I could have also talked about empowerment. I mean, the first four should culminate into the fifth one, that is empowerment through that. So, I think we need to have a model code of conduct for every single faculty. That should be the job of the individual institution rather than the job of the regulators. Regulators cannot do more than laying down the minimum benchmarks which we have already done. Yes, please.
Yes, I am from Himgiri University, Dehradun. I have a simple question. When we receive research project from University Grant Commission and submit our report to UGC after 3-4 years, what UGC does for these findings? I never received any such report, any such circular from University Grant Commission that these are the findings of researchers of this country.
There are three stages actually. The first stage is that when you submit a research proposal for scrutiny of the experts. I mean, that is the first stage. It is all competitive. The second stage is that during the mid course of the research project, you are called as the principal investigator before the expert committee. You present your progress, and if they are satisfied or if they have to give some suggestions, so you get some suggestions as a researcher. The third stage is when we receive the report, we need to identify the action points and then put it in the public domain. We were not doing it, but we have decided that we are going to put it in the public domain for the benefit of the people. And one thing more which I have recently done is that all institutions or all individuals which are getting funding from the University Grants Commission, we have created a page for every single recipient now. And anybody from anywhere with a click of a mouse can see the progress, how much money was allocated, how much has already been released, what is the utilization certificate that we have received, so that, I mean, we are not charged and you are not charged. So everything, we are making the system much more transparent. You don't have to come to the UGC with your proposal now. Everything is done online. And I'm not saying that you should not visit UGC. You must visit UGC, but not for, I mean, small things, for the purposes of ascertaining what is happening to your proposal, whether you have been awarded or you have not been awarded. You can see everything. You can see everything online now. The lady in the last, please.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. I am formerly from Delhi University and now at Tech University. And my question is regarding the notion of excellence that you so eloquently outlined in your talk. And I think one of the sort of hallmarks of excellence is also the work conditions in these newly emerging universities. Right? Particularly in the recruitment of teachers, what are the standards and what are the work conditions, salary structures, but also the conditions of employment which are being provided to them. And I'm wondering whether UGC has some specific guidelines which are imposable in terms of, if there is a grievance, for instance, that a teacher has against a particular university which has hired him or her. What is the proposal for redress beyond the university? Is the UGC involved in that, or is it likely to be involved in that?
It is already there. We have come up with a regulation for addressing the grievances of different stakeholders in the higher education system. Each university is obliged now, this is the regulation, each university is obliged to appoint an ombudsman. And that ombudsperson is obliged to address the grievance of the individual within a period of 30 days. And there is Other institutions will also have to do it because this is the regulation which we have done. We have taken a number of measures in the recent past. For instance, this is one. The another one, we have come up with the students' entitlements. We are recruiting students, but are we providing them good library? Are we providing them good laboratories? Are we ensuring that the classes are held in time? Are we ensuring that the results are declared in time? For all that, you can visit the UGC's website and you will see the students' entitlements there, with a view to creating awareness amongst them, and we should do that. The third thing is about the prevention of caste-based discrimination. We have come up with a regulation for that. We have a regulation for anti-ragging. We have a regulation, now we have this mandatory regulation for assessment and accreditation. Similarly, we have a regulation for So this is already done. Excellence, you can't define excellence actually. Sky is the limit. But you can certainly define the benchmark, and that is what has been done through our regulation of 2010. Minimum qualification of teachers, which takes care of everything. I mean, the service conditions, the leave, etc. Every aspect of the service is covered, including the scale of pay. And I think we should not be having any complaints insofar as the scales of pay are concerned. The scales of pay are absolutely fantastic in today's time. The service condition depends. Service conditions in terms of salary, scales of pay, promotions, leave, gratuity, etc. It is all defined there. But the institutional ethos have to come from within the institution. It cannot be percolated down from top. Yes, Pankaj.
Thanks, Mr. You mentioned two very important things. One called accreditation and excellence. Of course, you very eloquently argued about it. Let me just share a thought. I think these two can be in conflict. And let me explain a little bit. Just take a minute. Accreditation of programs, unless done carefully, is likely to get very prescriptive. In fact, the one or two that I've seen in our country tends to be more prescriptive because we are all accreditation we think of in terms of these affiliated colleges, and we sort of make things want to, the private education, we want to make sure things are okay. These prescriptive things, I believe, will inherently conflict with those institutions of excellence which want to and have the capability of innovating, trying new things, etc. And that's partly the reason I've been into IITs and in our own institute, partly the reason why program-based accreditation is often not embraced as much by many institutions, including in the US, for example, right? Many of the top universities waited for a long, long time for it. So my basic thinking is that I think in a country like ours, where we still have, 80% of the education happening in affiliated colleges, and as you mentioned, your hope is if we have 30, 40 institutions of excellence in the next 5 years, you will be happy man. Out of 700 and 35,000 you mentioned, I would submit that we need to be able to differentiate the leaders of education and institutions, and have an institutional level thing and not necessarily a program level requirement for them. Just a graduated thing, because I think it can, these are the people, these are the organizations which will bring in new thought. Now the technology is changing, now things are very rapidly changing in education also. It is these institutions that are likely to bring in good things. I'm sure some such thought is happening, but I just want to say thank you very much.
Can we just take all the questions and then so maybe first and then go ahead.
We'll take all of them together.
Thank you for highlighting the higher education system in India. My worry about goes on GER. When I travel around the countries other than India, every children will get an opportunity to go for higher education after completing their school education. But in India, we are unable to achieve as much as they achieve. Because the school education, they are funding more, whereas in the higher education system, the funding is not up to the mark. In this situation, as our chairperson has told, in 2017, we are proposed to achieve 30% GER higher education. What are the measures is going to be taken by the UGC to increase the GER when there is a little possibility of establishing public institutions? If the privatization of higher education comes means, already everybody is questioning about the quality of education. So in such a case, what could be done to improve the quality as well as the quality of higher education?
Okay, so you had a question for us.
I am Professor Rajkumar from Rajiv Gandhi University of Knowledge Technologies, Hyderabad. Thank you for your insightful remarks. I have a remark rather than a question. Sure, certainly in expansion phase, quality concerns do come up. And nowadays we find our institutions emphasizing research. I think the teaching excellence and quality of teaching learning is more important because it is that one which suffers the most in the expansion phase. I'm from IT curriculum, professor from there. We are already observing, we have observed this kind of features in the IT system. Research is emphasized. Therefore, the number of applications went up. While the teaching is apparently taking a little backstage. However, it's not like in the earlier days. So therefore, it's time that we talk more about excellence and quality in teaching, learning, and then of course research is important. Research goes well and side by side alongside teaching.
Professor Safari.
So thank you very much for the sensitive points that you raised in the talk. I'm Anita Sarkar from Stanford University. I represent a state university. I'm aware that private universities and state universities have much more money than we do. However, presidency, which, as everyone is aware, is nearly a 200-year-old institution, but became university very speaking, is reshaping into a very, very fine research university, but at the same time also paying great attention to teaching. My question is based upon your anxiety about institutions becoming identity-based. So I wonder, and you can answer as really funding is a huge problem, I'm always right about that. I just wonder if a university like mine is to shape up as not just the idea of excellence. Yes, that is so dynamic, but then it reaches out across the borders all around to other places, becomes a hub for research and teaching in that part of the country. Is there any funding initiative that university can turn to help them?
So we stop questions here, so you will see.
Let me answer the presidency question first. Okay, we have a number of schemes. As I was talking to you, for instance, if you are recognized as a university with potential for excellence, you are going to get 120 crores in 2 phases for the promotion of research in a focused area. And if you, in the first phase, which university with potential for excellence and you will get 60 crores. If you enter into the second phase, we would remove the word potential, we would call you University of Excellence and we would give you another 60 crores. If you successfully enter into the third phase, then you will be given 100 crore more. So 120 plus 100, 220 crores. This is one scheme. The another is your different departments can also access additional resources by becoming center with potential for excellence in a particular area. If you want to work on Tagore, if you want to work on Satyajit Ray, if you want to work on Gandhi, if you want to work on renewable energy, Mother Teresa, kisi field, so you are going to get additional resources. See, money is available, and money is not only available with the University Grants Commission, money is available with a number of national level agencies. Many a time, we are not able to pick up the money from the organizations like DBT and DST. And therefore what is needed is we need to keep our ears and eyes wide open, exploit all the opportunities available around us, mobilize greater amount of resources, and which is why I had said that the head of a research university need not be a Nobel laureate. He must be a successful manager like Kumar. Because it is university requires resources, and many universities hire persons only for the purposes of mobilizing resources. Here the Vice Chancellor is expected to do everything. So this is, these are the opportunities available right now with the University Grants Commission. And then there is yet more opportunity. If you can impress upon the Finance Minister, if you can impress upon the Prime Minister, an announcement can be made on the floor of the House, and you will get huge money like Banaras Hindu University, and Pawan has given 100 crores to Banaras Hindu University and 100 crores to Aligarh University. Chidambaram had given 100 crores, 150 to Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Now, insofar as GR is concerned, Vishwanathan, let me tell you that if you see the average, many a time in statistics we justify many things through mean and many things through median. We will use median when median suits us, and we will use mean when mean suits us. We will apply t-test when we have to find the significance of difference, and many a time we will say no, t is not appropriate, we will go in for analysis of variance. Okay, this is the limitation of these statistics. But the average size of a college is 375. I'll go to Paliwal, take one unit, start a program with an intake of 100, have only 2 batches. So I am running a college on a total strength of 200. With 10 teachers, only Paliwal will be the head, who would be permanent because he is the proprietor, and all others would be on contract basis. And I would be running an institution as long as the regulator is permitting me. The day he says that no, you cannot run this institution, I will shut it and I will open the shops there. The average size of a university is 3,500. They are not viable institutions of higher learning. You need to have a critical mass of students and faculty to be a viable institution. And more so when we are impressing upon the institutions that they should create multi-interdisciplinary ambience. And therefore, if we make the existing institutions to operate at the optimum level, you don't have to go very far. Jawaharlal Nehru University, which is sitting on a campus of 1,110 acres, has a student strength of only 5,000. You don't have to go very far from in Andhra Pradesh. Hyderabad University is sitting on a campus of 2,300 acres with a student strength of less than 4,000. So what we need to do is we need to support the existing institutions to operate at the optimum level, and we would be able to achieve a growth enrollment ratio of 30%. And we can be even more innovative. Why should we shut our institutions at 2 o'clock? And so there are ways of doing it. And then we have, I mean, Pawan had allowed us to set up model colleges in 374 educationally backward districts. So areas wherein the institutional density is lesser, we can set up newer institutions. We can promote newer institutions. We can't set up newer institutions. That's not the job of the University Grants Commission. But we can support it. And we will also have to take the state governments on board. Because if you analyze the 11th Five-Year Plan, while higher education had become the priority item for the central government, higher education did not become the priority agenda for the provincial governments. We have to take the provincial governments also on board for the purposes of achieving the growth enrollment ratio. These are indicators, Vishwanath. I'm not saying, I mean, you already have pockets in this country wherein the growth enrollment ratio is as high as 42%. You have states wherein the total number of higher educational institutions per 100,000 population is as high as 29. But you also have states wherein the total number of higher educational institutions per 100,000 population is as low as 6 or 7. The place where from Pawan comes and the place where from Sarkar comes. In the state of West Bengal. You have states, for instance, Punjab, wherein the participation rates of girls in higher education is more than that of boys. But then, I mean, we have enormous amount of imbalances actually, both in terms of the participation rates of different social groups and gender, and both in terms of the number of institutions and all that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Just one thing.
Right, thank you very much.
We'll move on to our next session. Our host for this session is Professor Ashok Saxena. We need to get the laptops. Just take 2 minutes.